Welcome to Boardroom and Beyond podcast, a show dedicated to exploring corporate governance best practice. This podcast is a learning journey taking us to different parts of the world to discover profound and eye-opening differences in corporate governance, understand those differences, and learn how to unlock the mystery of doing business whenever we go. I'm your host, Lyndsey Zhang. I hope you will enjoy the journey with me. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Boardroom and Beyond podcast. This is a book launch episode, and I'm going to share with you my newly released book, The Surge, an overview of China's rapidly evolving corporate governance and the coming ESG revolution. And I also want to take advantage of this solo episode to better introduce myself to my audience who might not know much about me. Before I start to talk about the book, I'd like to thank you all for following us on our podcast program in the past 9 months. Since we launched our first episode in August 2020, we have published 17 profound episodes with guest speakers who hold positions as corporate board members, executives, university professors, and industry experts. And our episode focused on 2 topics, corporate governance around the world and ESG in action. Thank you for our guest speakers, audience, advisors, and friends for your contribution to help us build this global network with passionate individuals. Now let's talk about the book, The Surge. Since I started to write this book, I have friend, family member, and colleague asked me different questions about this book. I thought I summarized all those questions to give everyone an overview about the background of this book and some details and takeaways. The first question I was asked is, why did you decide to write this book? I think this is more come from my multinational background. As people know me, know I grew up in China and moved to United States 20 years ago as a graduate student. My professional career started in US, and I worked for multinational companies held by different countries, British and Switzerland shareholders. In middle of 2010s, I had a chance to work for Chinese multinational companies in mainland China, Hong Kong, and in US. During this time period, I experienced the Chinese multinational companies' overseas acquisition and business expansion. Middle of 2010 is Chinese companies fast growing into global market. So I had a chance to learn their challenges of governing overseas subsidiaries and the challenges to establishing global branding. In addition, after living in US for over 10 years, when I work for Chinese companies again, I was often confused by some of the business practice, and I sometimes struggled to navigate different business interactions, as many of my Western friends do, although I speak fluent Chinese. So finally, I realized that my education in US and the first 10 years of my career building in US already made myself very Western mindset business professional. I almost feel like I need to re-education myself about Chinese culture and about how Chinese culture and China's current economic environment shapes the way Chinese companies are doing business, governing and doing business. As a result, I decided to study notable Chinese companies' corporate governance model and try to understand how they govern the business, how those governance model influence their business practice. And so my research and study keep extending. So the Surge is more like a summary of my research and findings since summer of 2019. And I hope this book will serve as a purpose to help my Western colleagues and other friend to understand the Chinese company more quickly than what I was able to. Another question I was often asked is about the name of the book, The Search. I was often asked by people, why do I name this book The Search, in addition to now it's the sub-name, an overview of China's rapidly evolving corporate governance and coming ESG revolution. I named my book The Search for a few reasons. The first, I believe China's continuous growth in the global economic field is a surge. Last year, China's effectively control of coronavirus spreading, which allowed the Chinese economy rapidly recovering from COVID-19 crisis. In 2020, China overtook US, become the largest foreign direct investment receiving country. So China's continuous growing in the global economic is a surge. Second, the promotion of Chinese model, China model, is a surge. Although many Western countries do not like or do not recognize the so-called China model, I want to give some explanation here. What I think China model means. I think China's economic growth and the corporate governance development already completed the early stage, which is learning from the West, learning everything from the West, adopting everything from the West. That was the early stage, and it's already been done. China now moving into the second stage, be able to developing its own growing model. So Chinese economic growth and already proved the success of the China model, which is a little bit different from the Western model, and I will explain in the later of the introductory. So I think China has been trying and will continue the effort to promote China model in the coming decades. So this is the promotion of China model is a surge. The third, I think China's increased influence to global economy, to other countries, is a surge. In 2020, China had a 2.3% GDP increase, which paved a path for an 8% GDP increase in 2021. As we all know, most countries in the world has been struggling recover from COVID-19 crisis, but China showed GDP increase and further increase in the coming year. Many people believe Chinese GDP will overtake the US and become the largest one in the world in the sooner future. So I do not want to quote anybody's word, but I believe we all read the news or medias for this kind of comment or opinions. And so China's increased influence to global economy is a surge. I have no doubt about it. And because of those three reasons, China's continuous growth is a surge. The promotion of Chinese model is a surge. China's increasing influence to global economy is a surge. I think that's the reason, though. Three reasons I decided I want to name this book as a surge. A surge, a very energetic, powerful, non-stop surge. And I think it's deserved to be better understand. And I think most of the misunderstanding or confusion come from lack of understanding. So I would like to use this book to share some, knowledge and experience. Hopefully, I can create some awareness about China's economic growth and China's corporate governance development. The next question people ask me is, what's so unique about your book, about the search? And who will be interested in your book? Because there are so many books talking about China, doing business in China, Chinese multinationals, China corporate governance. I mean, in the market, there are so many books. What makes my book unique? And this is what I think. Yes, there are many books on the market regarding China corporate governance and business practice. But I did my homework before I read this book, and I find out is most of those books are written by professors, and a lot of them was actually published quite some time ago. And I do not see many Chinese corporate governance or business practice book written by practitioners. So I think I'm a practitioner, and also I have over 20 years corporate career working for both Western multinational company and Chinese multinational company. I think my professional and personal background give some uniqueness of this book, because I think I share some of my experience, make those as the aspect for some opinion in the book, which you can read. You can see when you read the book. And I think in particularly, my book will be interested by a different group of people, they including global investors who are interested in learning China company, and interested to learn how China company govern, what is the key risks of Chinese companies' corporate governance. So I think global investors will be interested in my book. The next group of people I think will be interesting will be corporate chairperson, board director, and executives with a multinational company which has connections in China. I think with China's growth and China become the world factory for the past 30 years, most multinational company has some connection with China. Either it's a parent subsidiary relationship, both way, or supply chain, or technology sharing, or different partnership. So I believe for those company, the chairperson, board member, executives will be interested in my book. And also in our business community, we have professionals in corporate governance, ESG, law, merger acquisition, management, strategy, consulting, service. I think for professional and expert in those areas, if the firm or if their practice involve international consulting business, international directly or indirectly were related with China. So I think those readers will benefit from my book, and they will be interested too. And I think business school professors and master level students in business, law, accounting, auditing, corporate governance, or some similar programs can benefit from my book. Although I am not academic background, I'm not a professor, or I don't have academic background, but I think the insight I gained from my multicultural life and work experience, which I made into this book, will provide some useful information for those professors and students. And also, anyone who's interested in learning or understand Chinese company or China corporate governance, whenever I share some of the case study with my friend, they might or might not in the business world. Like, for example, whenever I share Huawei's case for Huawei's rotating CEO corporate governance model, everybody will feel like, wow, this is so creative and innovative. So I think many people will be interested in learning more about how those, big Chinese company govern their business. The next topic I want to touch base is why it's important to understand that China's corporate governance matters now. As we will all agree that China has been growing very fast in the past 4 decades in every different directions since the beginning of China's economic reform in 1978. I think especially after 2010, when China became the second largest economy in the world. So with China's continuous growing, the collaboration between Chinese company and companies or organizations, from the rest of the world, from both advanced country or emerging market countries, has been evolving and growing. like I said, the formality of collaboration, growing, starting from a simple supply chain, now become a variety of collaborations, you name it. In the same time, I think some notable Chinese company like Alibaba, Huawei, even though today both companies are in big trouble now, but I think it's really worth to study, their corporate governance, their journey to developing the business and the corporate governance. Companies like Alibaba and Huawei have been enjoying the great success in the global market and positioned themselves as industry leaders with their very creative corporate governance model. For Alibaba, Alibaba's partnership model and Huawei's rotating CEO model. Like I said, whenever I share the Alibaba story or Huawei story, they have different part of the story with my friend, family, or, my audience. And everybody is very surprisingly impressed by the creativity of those models. Although, like those innovative corporate governance model might not necessarily be widely recognized by the rest of the world, but I have to say, when Alibaba's successful IPO at New York Stock Exchange in 2014, Alibaba got a lot of attention from global investors because of its extremely controlled partnership model. And after that, in 2018, when Alibaba's founder and chairman, Jack Ma, decided to retire, its a very smooth transition planning also draw a lot of attention for, in the global business community regarding how Chinese company govern their business. Some people even made a comment like, we should learn, Jack Ma is teaching us how to govern business. That's something from the media. I didn't make it. I was reading, from the media, from the newspaper too. On the other side, we also see, China's regulation system is not much mature enough. So the immature regulation system allowed opportunities for risks and frauds, unfortunately. So when Nasdaq listed the Chinese company Luckin Coffee committed the financial fraud in early 2020, April 2020, I remember. Late of 2020, Chinese giant fintech company Ant Group's IPO was suspended by regulator. The investors started to challenge about Chinese companies' governance model and its board functions, which I think is very reasonable. The Western world doesn't recognize or realize that China's corporate governance journey only started in the early of 2000. It's very young, very short history. And many of those Chinese companies are simply going through the same evolutionary process, which has been experienced by Western companies decades ago. So in my opinion, China companies are almost 40 or 50 years behind Western companies as far as corporate governance development. So if we, understand this part, then it's not hard to understand that some of those failures produced by Chinese companies like Luckin Coffee is just a simple indication of the infancy of Chinese companies' corporate governance development. But I think over the time, China's corporate governance were getting stronger through evolution and continuous development, just like many companies from advanced countries do. And as China continues open its capital market to invite foreign capitals, the number of institutional investors investing directly into Chinese company through A-share or H-share from Hong Kong has increased significantly in the past decades. So because of the involvement, the increased number of institutional investors, and I think the understanding Chinese companies' business practice and the corporate governance at this era, at this time, is not optional anymore. I believe it's become a must-have qualification or mandatory skill for board members or executives from multinational companies. That's the reason I think understanding China corporate governance matter become essential and important now. So the importance to understand China's corporate governance and the essentialness of it lead us to the next question. How does this book, how does the search can help us on this topic? As most of us might be aware of that, China's economic reform took a very unique approach. It's so-called filling the stone while crossing the river. It was declared by the top leader, Mr. Deng Xiaoping, China's top leader, back then. And what does it mean, filling the stone while crossing the river? What does it mean is learning by doing, correcting from scrutinizing. So this is very different from what we have in Western business world. I will explain in later. So this strategy allowed rapid growth of China's economy. Under the historic situation, China went through so many internal revolution and without a very systematic regulation system to guide the economic growth. However, many Chinese company was able to enjoy the opportunity, the flexibility offered by this regulation environment, the immature or ongoing developing regulation environment in the past decades. So many companies was able to experimenting, developing, and improving their corporate governance system and practice as they rapidly grow into the global market. So, however, this approach make it very hard for Western professionals to study Chinese companies' corporate governance systematically. Because in Western business world, we are so used to always having best practice and always have regulatory guidance for economic reform. So the approach China took is very different from the traditional Western growing model. In this book, The Surge, the book will walk us through the history and the development of China's corporate governance through case studies and explain China's corporate governance development has already completed the early stage of learning from Western and moving to a self-development stage with inevitable influence from China's culture and China's ongoing regulation development and even China's one-party political system. With COVID-19 crisis raises so many questions regarding the effectiveness of our capitalism system today. Would China's approach inspire us for a new growing model? Not necessary to say we have to follow the way China is doing, but would this unique approach inspire us for a different growing model? Or would a new way of thinking about economic growth could possibly evolve from the COVID-19 crisis? I hope the surge can help generate some different thinkings through future growth as a company, as an organization, as a community, or even as countries. In this book, I also talked about China's coming ESG evolution. This is in the second part of the book. And I actually covered two concepts related with ESG. It was the corporate social responsibility, CSR, and the environmental, social, and governance, ESG. These two terms and practice are currently surging in China, as well as in the rest of the world, everywhere in the world. In China, though, as most emerging market countries, these two concepts, both CSR and ESG, were introduced to China by Western business partners and investors in a different stage of China's economic growth. So the surge will also take us to the origin of CSR in China and explain the important roles CSR played in China's early stage economic booming in the late 1990s and early 2000s. As far as ESG now is on the top mind of global business community. So in this book, we also review how Chinese companies adopt ESG and how Chinese companies are motivated to keep improving their ESG performance. And in this book, we also touch a very sensitive topic. It's a credit system developed in China called Corporate Social Credit System, CSCS. As some of us might already heard about the system, some might not. But I want to talk a little bit here. As Chinese government plays a very important role in driving regulation reform, like the corporate social credit system, together with updated ESG reporting guidance and a potential ESG policy, which will be issued in later 2021. So all those will have significant impact on China's corporate governance development and ESG movement. As the establish and the application of CSCS might have some data privacy conflict with Western multinational companies' operation in China, the progress of CSCS has been carefully monitored by various countries' authorities. In this book, In the Surge, we talked about the potential development of CSCS in the coming years. So ESG now is new to the entire world. China starts ESG revolution as the second largest economy in the world. So then I believe ESG revolution could possibly be another opportunity for China's economic to leap forward to another height. And ESG revolution could also become a great opportunity for Chinese companies to improve their corporate governance practice and strengthen their position as industry leaders in the coming decades. Then what's next? Then after understand Chinese companies' corporate governance and where China is at today's ESG movement, what those knowledge and understanding will help us in our future collaboration with Chinese companies or in our future investment in China. So I think so many questions remains. In Western world, we often question China's one-party system and the Chinese government's intervention with companies and the governance model and the business practice of Chinese, especially Chinese state-owned enterprises, SOEs. Well, China's fast economic recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic make China a model for many other countries of the world. Will the upcoming ESG movement in China inspiring further innovation and the development of China companies' corporate governance models? Well, can Chinese company enhance their global citizenship because of this phenomena? I think the answer will be revealed in the next decade. For now, our best predictions will come from a greater understanding of how China's corporate governance arrived at this point in time and how it's developing right before our eyes. So I hope the surge can serve as a foundation for our understanding. And I wish you are enjoying reading the book as I enjoy writing it. When I share my excitement with a friend in Chicago another day, he replied my email right away, says, "Hi, Lyndsey, you mentioned that this is your very first book. Does that imply you have more book coming?" I said, "Yes. Yes, The Surge is my first China corporate governance book. As an overview, I'm planning to write more China corporate governance books with my continuous research and study, and I will be happy to share my future books with everyone. I'm a firm believer studying China corporate governance will be more meaningful to the world if any of the successful experience from China's growth can be duplicated by other emerging countries and can help those countries growing fast. And I hope my future research and my future books can contribute to those studies. Last piece of information for everyone, new book promotion discount. From today, Monday, May 3rd, you can get this book from Amazon Bookstore with 40% new release promotion discount for 7 days. So again, from Monday, May 3rd, in 7 days, you can purchase The Surge from Amazon Bookstore with 40% new release promotion discount. We also made a link from our website, which can take you to Amazon Bookstore with one click. Please take advantage of the promotion discount to get your copy of The Surge. And after you have a chance to read the book, please leave your review, comment, and questions at Amazon Bookstore. Your feedback will help me write more useful and interesting information for you and for other audience. Thanks again for listening to this book introductory episode. Thank you so much for listening Boardroom and Beyond podcast episode. Please follow us on LinkedIn, Apple, Spotify, or whenever you are listening now for future episodes. I would love to know your questions on this journey. Please leave comments or share your ideas. They will inspire me for future episodes. Also, please check our website at boardroomandbeyond.com for show notes, takeaways, and more. I've been your host, Lyndsey Zhang. Thanks again for listening.